right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us. Another exciting episode of Catching Up with Jacob, and I do promise it will be exciting. Exciting because he's here today. Jacob Prash, how are you, Jacob?
Blessings in Jesus. I'm ready for him to come back, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen until we finish our work. So let's get on.
Let's get on with the work. David Lister from the South. How are you, brother? Back in Tennessee.
Back in Tennessee, doing really well. Going to be an exciting session today, and man, things are heating up, and it's like Jacob's teaching on the vectors. Things are speeding up.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us, brother. Jay, down here in the West Coast, suffering with me. How are you, Jay?
Let me just date myself real quick by saying in Hollywood, always up to no good.
Yes.
Very good. Welcome, Jay. God bless you. Davey, it is tomorrow there. So you're ahead of us again. God bless you. How are you, Davey?
Doing pretty good, thanks.
Praise the Lord. And good morning to you. And we have a special guest, Gert from Holland, Moriel, Europe. And he's here with us today. Gert, good evening. Thank you for staying up with us.
Yes. Well, it's not that late. Good evening, everybody. It's a privilege to be here, really. It's 9:45 here in the beautiful hills of Holland.
Yes, it is. It is beautiful. And just for everybody to know, Gert does work for with Moriel. I guess it's Moriel Europe, right? Gert, and he's one of the elders at the ministry there. And Gert, tell us a little bit about the ministry and about yourself. I know this is second time being here, but maybe first time for some of our viewers to get in touch with you.
Yes, thank you, Marco. Well, my name is Garrett. People call me Gert. My whole name, my real name is Garrett Adrian. And we started out the ministry here in 2019 after Jacob came here to Holland for the first time in our Morel Holland conference, the first one. And then we started also, our services here in Utrecht. But lately, the Lord has been shifting some things for us, and we're shifting towards our ministry more into music ministry here in Holland, writing songs, biblical based songs, of course. And that's what we're now focusing on lately. We have a nice, not too big, but very loyal fellowship. And we're doing the work of the Lord here. It's really exciting. Although at first we thought it would be in a conventional church with service and everything, but the Lord is. It started out maybe two months ago with a really severe and personal breakthrough, and God really showed me things, and I got with my wife, and we went there. We went on from there. So really excited, about evangelizing, especially with music.
Amen. Well, thank you, brother. Thank you. Appreciate the insight. And if anybody wanted to get a hold of you or know more about the ministry, where can they go?
Yeah, just go to moriel.nl. All our credentials are there. You can get in touch by WhatsApp or even by phone, or just find us. We're going to have a program on the website. So we're staying now in Utrecht, in the middle of the country, inviting people from all over just to worship Him in spirit and in truth.
Amen. Well, thank you. So glad you're with us. So blessed that you're with us, and so blessed that everyone's watching today from different platforms, from Rumble to Moriel.tv, MorielTV.org, RTN, Vimeo. What's the other one? Telegram, and of course, Facebook and YouTube. Welcome, everyone. And we do have a special announcement. We will be going to backstage, and we have a special expose on something very important. That Gert's here with us, talking to us about the war on children and what that looks like in a very tangible way, in a very horrific way, you could say it as well. And we'll be talking about that on Backstage. So join us for Backstage. So we'll be jumping off YouTube and Facebook, because it won't let us talk about this stuff. And we'll go to our backstage on the other platforms that we mentioned. So very good stuff coming up. So stay tuned. We're also on podcasts. I'm turning it over to Jay. Jay, tell us about podcast.
So the podcast schedule for this week, we have tomorrow, the weekend Bible study with Jacob Prash, Israel and Christians, the Truth, and the Trio. On Sunday, we have the Sunday morning by Pastor Marco, the book of Colossians, Hang On to Jesus. This episode of Catching Up with Jacob will drop on Monday. Then on Tuesday, we have Apologetics by Sandy Simpson, the Bradford Pear Tree versus Christianity and the Marks of False Religion. We have an episode of Ken's Corner dropping on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we have Jacob's midweek Bible study, The Trees of Righteousness, Part 1. And that will take us into Friday, which will be Friday with Jacob Prash, Understanding the Rapture, Part 2. That's
All right.
our podcast schedule.
Very good. So get a hold of podcasts. You go to the website. You can go, I think it's on the YouTube About channel, how to get to the podcast. But we're in a lot of platforms. So if you are probably in the most popular ones like Spotify, like iTunes, you can find us there. Buzzsprouts obviously carries that as well, and as well as the other ones. So if you love podcasts, we're probably on your favorite platform. So it's great to share those messages, and they change every week. And what a blessing it's for you to not only listen to those podcasts, but also watch us on Memorial TV and Memorial.tv, memorialtv.org. Lots of places to find, and get a hold of it. Get a hold of it, share it, and keep preaching Jesus. Hopefully these messages encourage you and to go on with your walk with the Lord, and to make others known of the fact that our Lord Jesus, he reigns, and we preach a coming king, a resurrected and coming king. So God bless you guys. Let's get started. And we have a lot of topics today. We're not going to talk about Italy making June Family Month. That's a direct confrontation to the Pride Month that happens every year around the world. We're not going to talk about the Canadian fires, worst on records. We are going to talk a little bit about Christian persecution, but there are some major stuff happening. We'll save that for the end. Maybe we'll make a connection there, what's going on in Hollywood and movies like that. But definitely the cult of 2S LGBTQIA+ goes on, and they are relentless, especially against those who disagree, which will be, not Muslims, not Hindus, not of other people of other faith, but it seems to be the targets right over the Christian faith, of biblical Christianity. Well, maybe we'll make suggestions about that at the end and talk about those things. But the first thing we want to talk about, and I think it may not be on everybody's minds, but it's on everybody's eyes. It's what Apple is bringing out with ProVision. ProVision by Apple is the new goggles for augmented reality and soon to be metaverse, which hasn't been built yet completely, but we're on our way. This is 5 days after Meta, used to be Facebook, came out with their Met 3 that's going to be launched next year. So these goggles are going to get you right into an augmented reality. It used to be called virtual reality, augmented reality now. It's a groundbreaking technology, although we've seen some goggles come out before, but this is a whole new ballgame. It's got everything you can think of. And in reality, it's going to dissolve reality, make you go into another world. That's what they say. It's going to get you out of dissatisfaction and lack of fulfillment into an experience, they say, that is going to have limitless opportunities of adventure and community. And it helps you escape from the real world. That's what they're advertising as. You've seen these people wearing goggles or by themselves on a couch. So this is the first iteration, more to come. Jacob Prash, your view of what you see when you see Apple bringing out the ProVision. What do you think with the technology that they have? And this is just the first step in a long series of steps. What do you think it's happening, and where is this going?
Well, 25 years ago in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and one or two other places, we did a Bible study just as it was in the days of Noah, which was recorded. It's available in the public domain. And we said that virtual technology is going to become so sophisticated that people will escape into a virtual world and construct an artificial reality that will be the de facto real world to them. They won't care what happens in the actual real world. They'll manufacture their own reality through virtual programming. I always wanted to be Cinderella. I always wanted to be Elvis. I always wanted to be Napoleon. The technology you see now, augmented reality, is a stepping stone. It's not fully virtual yet. It will become three-dimensional, and it will become neurologically interactive. This could be further enhanced with psychotropic drugs, where it'll be almost indistinguishable from the functional world as we know it now in three-dimensional chromatic sphere of existence. That is what is going to happen. We saw this coming 25 years ago, and we said so. But what we did not understand 25 years ago was the implications of artificial intelligence. Then it was in its sub-infancy. Now it is a reality. AI takes what we said was going to happen 25 years ago and graduates it to a whole other scale. AR is only the beginning. The definition will get better, and for sure, the prices will come down. People will not care what is really happening in the real world because they will live in an artificial one. It doesn't matter if I can't eat turkey for Thanksgiving. I can eat turkey for Thanksgiving in my cyber world, in my virtual world. I don't have to mourn the death of my family or my loved ones. They're still alive in my cyber world. It can get to this degree where people will just artificially manufacture a synthetic sphere of existence, an artificial reality that will become their de facto reality, and they won't care what happens outside. Now, when it reaches that state, and we're not talking about science fiction, we're talking about science and technology. When it reaches that state, people will be less and less concerned with what's really happening in the world, economically, politically, environmentally. It won't matter. That's not their reality. Their reality is the one they make for themselves. Not only that, people will change the channels. Today I'm Napoleon, tomorrow I'm Elvis. Today I'm Cinderella. Tomorrow I'm Morticia Adams, whatever you want to be. Just change the channel. It's going to get to that point. It will. What we see is a first step in applied technology, but it's going to get cheaper. It's going to get better. It's going to get higher definition, and it is going to become neuro-interactive. We can't even at this point fathom where this is going, but we know where it's ending. Book of Revelation.
Yeah, it's about $3,500. As you said, the price is a pretty steep price for some goggles. Meta is a bit cheaper. It's about $300. But nonetheless, this is something of the first step. They have an ambitious plan. Apple has an ambitious plan to be the leader in VR and AR industry, which is virtual reality, augmented reality, which basically means you can superimpose the real world with the made-up world, and you can bring them into one world. That's what augmented reality is supposed to be. You still see the real world, as it were, but you bring in another world on top of it, and you can sort of maneuver into both of these worlds, which is really an amazing technology if you think about it, just the technology itself. But they have ambitious plans to continue to grow it. And they're one of the things they said is that they want to solve dissatisfaction in the world. People are dissatisfied with their lives, with the world, the way it's going, with their jobs, with the economy. So this is a way to escape. Any danger in that, guys? Anybody want to jump in? Any danger in that?
I can think of a couple. First of all, California doesn't need worse drivers. Right now, it's you stare at somebody next to you on the freeway and they're texting. I can only assume that's going to be worse when they're wearing Google goggles and Apple goggles and AR Facebook Meta goggles. The world is filled with distractions, and you could be distracted at least before you could turn off a screen. But literally now you're putting it on your head so that everywhere you go, you can be distracted.
That's right.
And then
go ahead.
To Jacob's point, the people who you're going to be mourning and using the goggles to remember when they pass away, the quality time you have with them is severely impacted when you're distracted every moment from spending time with them.
Yeah.
So
It-
this is going to rob people of true life, true
it-
experiences.
it's interesting you bring this up because one of the things they said is supposed to bring you happiness. And I don't want to get into the philosophical aspect, but what is happiness? I mean, what are they trying to achieve? Is it hedonism? Just the reality of like, I'm just going to do whatever I want and that's pleasurable. And whatever pleasure I can get is happiness. Any thoughts on that? Anybody want to jump in? It's the reality. They say we want to solve dissatisfaction and bring happiness through virtual reality, augmented reality. How can you achieve happiness that way?
Everything looks good and okay in here, Marco. It's much like what a heroin addict, when they do an opiate, everything is good.
Mm.
Understand? It alters your state of consciousness so that you're not worried, you don't have any problems. If you do, they're in the background. They're not pressing on you. You don't have that anxiety. And that's what this is going to do. I mean, you could see somebody living in their basement and their world is everything made up, even if the lights are out, even if the neighborhood has burned down, something like that. But if their electricity's on and they can create this world, everything will be okay. Even as it gets even more advanced with neural links and things like that, it could probably stimulate your need for food, and turn that off, and you could be slowly starving to death, but everything will be okay.
Yeah, and I believe also, Marco, is that probably the last two generations, the youngest generation, they have been brought up with everything from birth almost. So they have been prepared for all their life. For them, it's like a normal extension to what they already know and believe and do with their mobile phones and with the PlayStation and everything. I don't have very little children. Mine are almost 17 and almost 16. But they are so distracted. So that is basically what our enemy wants to do. He wants to basically the only thing he really wants to do is get us distracted from finding out the truth about anything, about the absolute truth of God's word, about the absolute truth that Jesus is the only way. So yeah, in that sense, the youngest generations, 2, maybe even 3, they don't know any better. For them it's like an logical extension of what they already been brought up with. For us, it's like man, don't they see it's another world? It's not real. But for them, it's almost. I can understand that for younger people, it's almost hard to really realize that it's totally fake, because they've been brought up with it.
And
A
the
verse that I
technology
think
is so good. The technology getting so good, you won't be able to discern that anymore. Go ahead, Jay. I think it was you.
Yeah, a verse that one of my favorite verses in the Bible, I think really applies here. It's 1 John 2, verse 16. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes,
Yes.
the pride of life comes not from the Father, but from the world.
Yes.
And that's what they're trying to deliver to you, the lust of the eyes.
Yes.
To your eyes and to your eyes. Look, we already lived in a society that has iPhones and MacBooks and iPads, and that's already a distraction in and of itself. I mean, it's already considered your second brain because everything is through your phone. Everything you look up is through your phone. Everything you want to access is through your phone. Your contacts, your people you want to reach. So it's become, the popular term is your second brain. Now this is going to be augmented and is going to be brought into your own life. And it's going to be such an experience that people are not going to be able to tell the difference. And it's going to create a greater delusion that people already have. I mean, we're already dealing with people that believe that they're other people. They're not who they were born as. And there's even other things like other kin and people that believe they're furries. These are things, if you look them up, people that have this idea that they're like mythical dragons or unicorns or dogs or things like that. It's going to explode in this virtual world because they're not only going to think they are, they're going to feel it. They're going to see it. They're going to be able to have a world in which they are what they think they are. And it's going to be surrounded by all these different belief systems that are not real. And I guess it's a fundamental question is it's what is reality? What is truth? What's the aim of life? Is happiness the aim of life? Jacob Prash, how do we solve this issue? How do we reach a society that has gone this far into technology with reality being subjective, truth is subjective, feelings are important, and it shift the whole world into, there is no truth. There's even a discussion about truth because it's about what you feel that's more important. And this delusion, it's only going to increase with technology like this.
If there was a social prognosticator who saw this coming, it was Andy Warhol. He warned what it would be like. He said, people are not going to care about truth anymore. Everything will be experiential. Validation will be based on experience. So it doesn't matter if you can't buy or sell without the mark of the beast. That's the other world. This is my real world. I'm a billionaire sailing on my private yacht in the Caribbean. Don't bother me about that other stuff. Now, when this becomes part and parcel of a world where there's global universal income, people won't have to care about reality. They'll be so detached from reality that reality will not functionally matter to them until it is too late. But let's remember, this will include religious delusion.
Yeah.
It will include religious delusion. There were-
Jacob, I'm sorry.
There were things-
Jacob, in our generation, we tuned in, turned on, and dropped out. These
Yeah.
guys are going to plug in
plug in and drop out.
turn on and
Yeah.
drop out.
Well, it's just like that.
How
I
about
remember when I was a teenager, I was an acid freak. I took LSD all the time when I was in high school. I took it a lot. And during that 8 hours or so of intense tripping on acid, I entered a different realm of existence. You entered a different realm that became your reality. You didn't worry about what the world was like when you were not tripping. You were tripping. That became your reality. People have tried to do this at other times in history.
Yeah.
Going back to ancient Rome and Greece, where they had transsexualism and things of this nature, but it could not be technologically or scientifically facilitated. Now it can be.
Yeah.
So the spirit on back of this stuff has always been there. Another element, though, as I pointed out with psychotropic drugs, will be pharmakia. Pharmakia, this relationship between the occult, mind-altering chemicals, and false religion. This is going to feature prominently, somehow working in tandem with not augmented reality, but virtual reality. I'm positive.
It's interesting you mentioned that about the drugs, because one of the things that it's keen on doing, and eventually this would be the maybe the third or fourth or fifth step on this, is to really connect with your brain patterns. This is something that they've been working on for a while. Neuralink, it's the latest iteration of this kind of thing, where AI is able to know what you're thinking through brain patterns. We already have AIs that can translate your brain patterns into an image or into text. That's already in the works. Now, these goggles here do not have that. Obviously, they're simply machine learning. They're learning your eyes, your movement of your eyes, and what attracts you, what doesn't attract you, in order to get all these images in front of you that you would like. So if they want to sell you something and things like that, so it'll track you. It'll collect immense amount of data, very specific data, which is what marketers want to do. They want to see what catches your eye. And they literally are going to catch your eye. But it's going to move beyond that, because now they're going to put things in front of you that's going to cause a dopamine effect. This is what happens to gamblers, drug addictions, and alcoholics. It's a dopamine effect that keeps you wanting more. And these people are going to tune in, and they get a dopamine shot, and they're going to love it. And they're going to think you're crazy, because if you tell them that this is not good, they're going to say, but it feels so wonderful. It feels so great. How can you argue against my own experience? And this is the hard thing about witnessing to this kind of generation, that it's going to be felt, it's going to be known to them, that reality, which is not a real reality. It's just a fake reality that the world has been giving them.
Yes.
And they're going to believe it to such degree that I wonder how the gospel message can be effectively preached to a society that it's already tuned out the real world, where the gospel is preached and Jesus is Lord.
You
You
see,
know, Marco, they said one thing, I'm building on, it feels so good, it feels so great. But one thing that people used to say during my time or back in the hippie days, it feels so right. They'll make it a moral thing.
How can it be wrong? It
How
feels so.
can it be wrong?
Like, yeah, exactly.
I go back to my youth, to the underground scene in New York with Andy Warhol and people like this. They saw this, just in human terms, they saw it. The rock band of Andy Warhol was the Velvet Underground, somebody called Lou Reed. And he had two songs that were strikingly impressive. One was about heroin. And he said, when that smack, that's heroin, begins to flow, when it's going through the hypodermic into his vein, when that smack begins to flow, then I really don't care anymore about all you gyms and everybody putting the rest of the rehab didn't matter to him. As soon as the smack get into his veins and went to his brain, it didn't matter anymore. Okay. Wow. But then in a kind of melancholic despair, he sang a song about Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, help me find my proper place. Jesus. He's singing in desperation. This is a Jewish junkie. playing in a rock band produced by Andy Warhol. This stuff has been coming. It's the spirit was already there in the 60s. I saw it. It's just that now it is going to be technologically facilitated.
Yeah. Now it's supposed to cure dissatisfaction and unhappiness, right? That was one of their major things that they talked about. But the more we're sold this idea that technology will make us happy, with the iPhone, with the iPad, with your phone watch, all that stuff, it hasn't made society happy. It's made it a very discontent, fatalistic, and nihilistic. I don't think this is going to change either. I think people are going to be absolutely destroyed by this. People are not going to satisfy them.
I think it'll make people even more dissatisfied with their lives. Self is never going to fill that void. Getting back to the dopamine effect too, I can't help but be reminded again of the 60s, Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 and the Linda.
Yes.
And how she was basically drugged with her own dreams, basically. And this is basically what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think one of the dangers is going to be that people are going to have memories, but they're not going to even be indistinguishable from reality. Was that a dream, or did I really live it? Did I have a thought, or was that in the virtual world? Now combine that, and this is again, now we're getting into this what we see as Christians in Scripture. Combine that with the element of the supernatural. Now we're talking demonic spirits playing on this virtual reality and augmented reality. It's going to be not just what they feel, not just what they see, but it's going to be a delusion, a supernatural delusion that they're going to believe a lie. And of course, the Second Thessalonians comes to mind, where God sent that strong delusion because they didn't have the love for the truth, because people don't even know the truth anymore. People don't want to know the truth anymore. And reality has become subjective in such a way. Jacob, I have a question though. Some people will tell me, especially the older Christians, why even talk about this? Why worry about it? Why talk about it? I'm not going to get into the metaverse. I'm not going to get into the goggle thing. I'm not going to buy it. So why even worry about it, right? And some say, why talk about it? We're not even going to be here where this final iteration comes into play. So just anyone can jump, and I'll start with Jacob. Why even mention it?
First of all, do you have children and do you have grandchildren? Okay, that's the first. It may not be your reality, but it's going to be the reality of the generations that follow us. It already is to a degree becoming very much the reality of the generation that's following us. Okay, when you have a technologically induced but demonically animated hypnotonic state that people get suspended in this virtual world, and that becomes their reality, you're still going to have to interact with those people in your old age. They're going to see life one way. They're going to have one perspective of existence, and you're going to have another one. There's no escaping it. There's no getting around it. You can say, I don't care about email, I don't care about computers. But when you go down to your geriatrician, you still have to give them your social security card or your Medicare card, and it's going to put your data into a computer, and your medical history is going to come up. You cannot avoid dealing with it on a practical level. It is going to affect everyone on some level. That's the first reason. That is the first reason. The second reason is because of its prophetic significance in setting the stage for the book of Revelation. Again, we warn about those misguided brethren who propagate the pre-trib fantasy that was an invention of men, not found in scripture and not believed by the early church. We're going to be out of here. Don't worry about this stuff. Well, when this stuff happens and you're not out of here, then you'll have the answer to your question, why should we study it?
Very good. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Why do we care? Why do we worry? We're not going to be here on one end, to other people that said, well, I'm not even going to get on it, so I don't even have to listen to this.
Well, unlike Cain, we are our brother's keeper.
Very good. Very good. We are. That's what God called us to. Anybody else?
Well, you want to keep preaching the gospel, because while there's life, there's hope, but it looks like things are getting slimmer and slimmer and darker and darker.
And yeah, I think I have some issues with that kind of statement of people saying I don't have to worry about it, I don't have to think about it. For one, a lot of things that I was told as a young Christian, you're not going to be here for, that has happened. That's first and foremost. A lot of things I was told, you're not going to be here for that. Well, that's the great delusion, the great disappointment. Now, the great disappointment was happened in 1700. So I'm not talking about that great disappointment, but there'll be another great disappointment that's going to come. The other thing too, I think there's a lack of, if you don't care what these people do, there's sort of this lack of Christian love for the lost.
And compassion.
They might not put it that way. Oh, I still pray for them and stuff like that. But if they don't really care what's happening to people, they don't really care what kids are going to do and how they're going to reach them. I mean, I stay up sometimes trying to figure out, like, how do I reach young kids? I feel like, I'm not as old, in some circles. I'm not as old as, maybe a 70-year-old or an 80-year-old in some circles, but sometimes it feels like I'm 100 to some of these kids because they think completely different. They're absolutely in a whole a language, things that they say. And I was wondering, did I sound like that when I was a kid and my mom couldn't understand me? I don't know. But what I'm saying is I'd stay up and trying to figure out how to reach these kids. And it breaks my heart sometimes because I don't have the answer sometimes because they speak a different language. They don't care about certain things that I think are vital. But we press on and we keep asking the Lord how to reach these people. And it's going to be the same thing in our world today. Anyway, any final thoughts? We got to move on to the next topic, but any final thoughts before we move on? All right. Now, the war on food. Now, talk about reality, right? This is a reality that people tune out sometimes. But the war on food, inflation, less resources, war, all that, it's one thing. But when you have a real scheme, and I'll call it a scheme, a real goal to destroy people's way of eating and ability to eat and ability to have food, I don't doubt there's an agenda here. I don't doubt there's an agenda and on a global scale, but it's highlighted in certain situations. Now, it is a war to try to get rid of farming. Now, imagine this: if you're going to achieve net zero, by many estimations, net zero carbon emissions, net zero goals, which is the 2030 agenda from the World Economic Forum and the UN, some estimations says 50% of the population will die of hunger or diseases. Half. If you're going to achieve this goal in 7 years. Some people say, no, it's not going to happen. It'll never happen, right? So these numbers don't mean anything, but they are really pushing the nitrogen fertilizer to be gone. They're really pushing for carbon to be gone. I think it's the biggest enemy in the world. And we have examples of this. Sri Lanka, what's happening in the Netherlands, the protests in Italy and Poland and France as well. But in Ireland, Jacob, we'll start with you. 200,000 dairy cows are going to be eliminated over the next few years, not because they're diseased, not because of anything, except for they're not good for the environment. They put up too much carbon, they put up too much nitrogen, they put off too much methane. So for all these thousands of years, men have lived with animals and been sheep herders and shepherds and cultivating the land. But now we know better. We know that animals are really bad for the environment, being it, of course, tongue in cheek, but they're targeting this stuff. And Ireland it's completely hell bent on doing this. Jacob, we talked about Ireland last week and some of those draconian speech laws that are coming in. Now we have this draconian food laws that are coming in. Go ahead, take it away, Jacob.
Well, first of all, we have to understand something. Global warming, as we've said, I've said before, and others of us have concurred, is a diversion from the real issue of pollution. Pollution, particulate emissions of diesel-fueled tractor trailers, lorries, is a reality. Deforestation is a reality. In the Amazon and Indonesian places like this. Certainly oceanic pollution is a reality. By concentrating on global warming instead of pollution, it is a diversion away from the real battle to preserve and save the environment. That's the first thing. It is a politically driven agenda. Even if all of these things were implemented, it would do nothing to change the basic global situation of the earth, because China is continuing to build every 6 months at least one coal-fired, high-emission, high-sulfur electric generation plant. That's at least 2 a year in China. And they're massive, and it's growing, and they're not stopping. And bituminous anthracite, sulfuric content of the coal, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything. You have Schwab calling upon China and King, the dictator, who's doing this to be the leader of the new economic direction of the world in Davos. He actually said that 3 years ago. The world's #1 polluter should be the leader. While Western countries are being told to get rid of your cows and cut back on agriculture. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
It is ridiculous. It is a politically driven and politically motivated agenda. As we've already seen, other efforts to do this, like renewables, have proved to be absolutely moronic, like in Germany. They moved for 85% renewables, and now they're burning more fossil fuels than ever before because the wind does not always blow and the sun does not always shine. Germany is the working model that it doesn't work, at least not on any kind of as efficient scale to fuel the industries and transportation of a major economy. It's proven not to work, but they're pushing an agenda. Now, who does benefit from it? Well, ask Barack Obama and his Solaris company friends. China does, because they manufacture the solar panels that they export to the rest of the world for something that doesn't work. And of course, you got the 500 million in contributions made by Solaris executives to Democratic Party campaign funds. It's all a scam. It is all a scam. It doesn't work. It's a political agenda, much the same as COVID was a political agenda, not a public health agenda. So too, global warming is a political agenda. It is not a legitimate environmental agenda.
Boy, we're being sold a bill of goods from every direction. Now, this comes from Brussels, the European Union, targeting cows, targeting obviously anything that would provide some kind of food, it seems to be. But this is part of their climate initiative, zero carbon policy. So this is all coming from the EU, WF. It's going to be really difficult. I mean, how can you live without this kind of food, or live without cows? But they want to, and we'll find out more of what their plans are. But Gerd, we wanted to talk about the Dutch farmers a while ago. We've been doing it for a while, but we wanted to bring you on to give us some depth, because we could talk about it. We know certain things are going on, but tell us on the ground floor, not only the attack on the food policies there, zero carbon policy, but also the taking away of the land. Farmers are being driven out of the land.
Yeah, just to remind you guys, the last time that we talked about it, I already, let me see where I have it. I talked about the plans for the tri-state plans, yeah? So I will quickly remind, this is basically what it's all about. And then, of course, we got all those sustainable goals from the United Nations. Let me see if I can get it on screen now. Here you are. Schermdelen. This. Now, this is basically what trying to do. You guys see it?
Yes.
These are plans that were already there for some time. And as you see, as explained the other time, this is Holland is not really a big country. We got by now just over 17 million people living here in Holland. You can see right here, Amsterdam, Utrecht is where I am right now. And then, of course, here, Germany, and here in the south, Belgium, with here, Brussels. So the plans are to make a very big metropole here in Holland. The tri-state city network plans are already for probably a decade or more. So who's in the way? Who is in the way? Aside from traditional churches here, the farmers are by far the largest landowners, and of course, after the United States, but relatively then, of course, the biggest, produce relatively seen, we only got 17.5 million people. So who's going to be in the way? The farmers, in both their land as well as in their food and milk production. So that's basically what the war is about, kind of hidden, and they come with all this nonsense about the environment and all that. But what is really remarkable, and that's what I wanted to share in this episode, is that I have to tell a little bit, very briefly, a little bit from how the Dutch politics, works here. In Holland, we have like 2 rooms. A parliament contains out of 2 rooms. You got the second room and you got the first room. Now, this is a picture of the second room about, let me see. Hold on for a sec. Even kijken. Yeah, here it is. Now, this is the second room. We got 150 people in the second room. In the second room, that's where the policies are made in Holland. Also, the policy against the farmers and everything else. It's made here. Then we have, in order to make policy, you need to have 76 people to come to a majority, right? In this second room. Now, in the first room, however, there's only 75 people. Now, the first room in a parliament, they only say yes or no to propositions that the second room are making. The parliament is in the second room, so they make policy, and then the members of the second room, they vote, and if there's a majority, then it goes to this room. The first one contains out of 75 seats, and then you have to have at least 38 seats, members voting in favor of something, and then it will pass through. Now, you probably heard is that there was, of course, a lot going on here in Holland, with all the measures that they want to take against the farmers. And then all of a sudden, it started out 3 years ago. She got 1 seat in the second room. And this is just the party called Boerenburgerbeweging. And it stands for, like you see here, the B, Boerenburgerbeweging, which in English would mean Farmer Civilian Movement. Now, out of the blue, this woman comes up. This is her name, Caroline van der Plas, and she leads this party got only one seat in the national election. But then in the elections 2 months ago, people were able to vote for the first room. All of a sudden, she gets like 16 seats. And you see here, out of the blue, because she's just in place, you know, only 3 years ago. This is the party of our own Prime Minister, Rutte. Everybody knows him by now. But as you can see, BBB didn't have anything before. And all of a sudden, there's this party, and out of the blue, they have 16 seats and become the greatest party in the first room. Now, as you can see, the biggest then was the VVD, the party of Rutte. And all of a sudden, it's been reduced to 10. And then the other parties in the parliament, in the cabinet, is the traditional Christian party. I feel ashamed that the C of Christian is in that name. DSS 66 is a very, very, very anti-Christ-like party. And then we've got the other party, which is also on paper a Christian party. And just as the same for the other one, I feel so ashamed that the C stands for Christian, but it's got nothing to do with the true gospel anymore. Although Holland, Jacob told us about it a couple of times with our conferences, had a really important task, you know, in the Reformation and everything, Erasmus from Rotterdam, etc. So in order now for the parliament led by Rutte to get a majority in the first room, you have to have at least 38 seats, right? 38 voices to get the majority. But let me quickly remind you to this.
Has also created an opportunity to build back better, building back better.
Plan to build back better.
It's about building this country back better.
The Great Reset.
Build it back better.
You must do back better.
Build back better. To build back better.
To build back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Well, I think the point is made. Build back better. We heard it an awful lot, of course, 2 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, there comes a party out of the blue. Nobody ever heard of Caroline van der Plas. And then she says that she's speaking for both the farmers and both the civilians. Well, if you take 3 letters of the B and you make it little b's, what do you get? Of course, it's you know, it's been brought out. You know, it's a controlled opposition. It's all kind of a little bit of speculating from me. But what I do know is that the two traditional parties that stood right across the right-wing VVD and the others were Green Left and the Labour Party. These are really the traditional left-wing parties in Holland. And together now in the first room, they have like 14, so even with this great party now, the BBB, not containing a majority, they still can get, with traditional opposition parties, they still can get the majority. So there's really a lot going on, guys, here in Holland, because if you are awake, you can see right through it. This is an example of motions that were proposed. This is at the time when the energy costs were rising so high, and people were, afraid to get, to be put out of the house because they couldn't pay their energy, the cost for energy. Now it says here the motion is let's lower the taxes for paying on energy, gas. And you know what? Here are the traditional opposition parties. As you can see, they still have the majority. So it was, denied. And then this is a plan to reunite groups again in those lockdowns. A lot of people, especially elderly, but also younger people, they were suffering from being lonely and really heavy problems because they could not socialize anymore. So there was this proposition, you know what, let's make all kinds of plans to reunite all these groups again with each other. And look, again, the traditional parties that were normally supposed to be the opposition, they all voted against. So it was denied. And on this one, children, don't invite children actively for voluntary vaccination, it says here. Well, denied, because all of the parties, they were in favor. This one is, hold on, secure that the food production, let me see, make sure that all the land for food production, that it will be kept for farmers, for a building. Denied. You see. So
hey, Gert, can I ask you a question this real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I have it up, and I know we want to move on to other topics here, but I ask you, what do you think the goal is?
Yeah,
I mean, there's got to be an aim to this. They just can't be this just happening, you know, out of sheer coincidence. There is a goal here, and there is a strategy. What do you think it is?
well, that's exactly my point. And again, it's a little bit speculating, of course. I cannot be 100% sure, but I know that the world is in the hand of the wicked one. I always have to think about when Satan brings Jesus up to the hill and shows him all the countries and says, if you are the son, in Greek, I read it as since you are the son, something like that. Well, you are the son of God, aren't you? Then why don't you? That's how I read it. So he shows him all the countries in the world and he says, it's all been given to me. So that is, as far as I'm concerned, where all the basis lies. You know, of course, Jesus promised to come back and you know, deal with evil here on earth. But till that time, all governments, and I'm quoting Jacob now, when the country turns its back on God, it will get what it deserves. Godless leaders. And that's exactly what is happening in Holland. So the goal here is giving people now with this BBB party, you know, farmer civilian movement, to give them an illusion, really, to give them an illusion. Now, whether it's controlled opposition, I cannot tell. I know controlled opposition consists, and it can either be somebody that is, you know, on the side of the majority and acting like she's against, or being abused or misused, you know, for controlled opposition. I don't know all about that. What I do know is that people here have a sense now. Oh, this Caroline, you know, she's gonna take care of us in opposing all the plans that Rutte, you know, has for the farmers. But I believe it's just an illusion. So the goal, as far as I'm concerned, is just to keep people really in a state of mind, just with what we were talking about. Let me
rephrase the question. Let me rephrase the question. What do you think the goal is to try to control the food?
The food? Well, that is probably an obvious, I think, almost rhetorical question, because the farmers, that is, they have the major part of food and milk production.
Yeah, so, I mean, and the reason why I ask is Netherlands is the highest food producer in Europe. It feeds all of Europe.
Yes,
that's my point. Is
yes,
the goal to control the Netherlands?
Well, power, of course, because where is it in Acts, Jacob, the emperor? You know, God killed him. You know why? There's a famine. He has the food, so he has the power. Whoever controls, or even water, but water and food and energy sources, whoever controls this controls people.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate thing.
That is
wrong.
Now, Jacob, let me ask you this: is this coming from Brussels? Is coming from the EU? Is this a localized?
It's coming from Brussels. It's coming from Washington. It's coming from the globalists. But where it's really coming from is hell. It's coming to the black horse of the four horsemen.
Yes.
Yep.
Here's John Kerry, who says that basically declaring war on farmers. Basically, confiscation is not off the table, which is exactly what's happening in the Netherlands, right? And he delivered this remarks at a mission climate summit in Washington, D.C., basically innovation mission. And small farms can even emit nitrogen, he says, so that we need to control the small farms. Again, very much the same thing, very much the same plan. In fact, I've heard a journalist from the Netherlands that says, you know, what's the answer to all this? He says, America, thank God you have the Second Amendment. Keep it. David, what do you think about that? Is that, I mean, they basically says it's going to come down to that.
70% of the atmospheric gas on our planet is nitrogen. If it wasn't, the rest of it would burn up. One of the things the globalists do, and the pseudo environmentalists do, is they expect people to ignore that carbon dioxide is to plants what oxygen is to us. Now, all of a sudden, nitrogen is an inherent evil.
Yep.
Without
Exactly.
nitrogen, the planet would be it would be incinerated. This is but tell a lie often enough, people will believe it. We
Double
talked about the weaponization of food. What you saw
Yep.
with OPEC can happen with grain.
Yeah.
And that is another thing that's happening now, particularly because of the reduced grain production in the steppes in the Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, the war.
And what's happening in China now with the flood damage to China's wheat harvest. The United States, Canada, to a degree, Australia, these countries can use grain, particularly corn and wheat, the way that the OPEC countries used oil.
Yeah.
We have a problem in the world that the globalists are well aware of. The explosive population growth in the third world. People flooding into Europe and flooding into the United States from the third world. What do we do with these people? You have to reduce the third world population. How do you reduce the third world population? Well, it's obvious.
Lack of food. Yeah. Food. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this goes right in hand with what the scripture talks about the book of Revelation, but it is coming very fast. And now you have the WHO trying to control what people grow, what crops are going to grow in the world. I mean, I thought they were just dealing with health issues, not political or food issues.
The World Health Organization of the United Nothing.
By the way, I just wanted to point
Yeah,
the
go-
statistic out real quick.
Go ahead.
So we're killing cattle in Ireland, right? 200,000, but you know who the world's largest carrier of livestock is? Cattle?
Is it the United States?
It is not. It is
Interesting.
India with 575 million heads of
Yep.
cattle that will never be used
For food
Food.
or
Because they're holy.
because they're holy.
That's right.
Mm.
So it would seem to me, if you wanted to be environmental friendly, you would go over and you would cull some of maybe the wild cattle in India.
They're
Yeah.
all over the place. They cause traffic jams. There's
Can't
not
eat
a
them.
city in India where the traffic is not backed up in jams because of
Yeah.
cows.
Yeah.
There's a lot of methane there.
But you can't do it. They're holy, and so you're going to end up eating bugs. So that's really the answer to all this.
Very
So
good point, James. Thank you for pointing out about the cows in India.
prepare.
Third,
The bugs.
you're going to change the planetary environment in terms of methane gas by culling cows in Ireland when India has more cows than anyone else easily.
Yes. Now, we talked about the food. We talked about some of the delusion that's going on there. But are they going to try to limit people's traveling, plans and who can travel and who cannot travel? And that's what we're dealing with now. It's the global ID. Jacob, we talked about it last week. The WHO is
Yep.
very much in control of this, along with the UN, with the World Economic Forum. But now they have unleashed, because of their meetings about a week and a half ago, along with the European Union. So the European Union is the first one to go live with a global vaccine passport. This is not conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy. Of course, there's people conspiring, but it's no longer theory. The World Health Organization director thanked the European Union as being the first ones to here's the revived Roman Empire telling the world that we're going to control your whereabouts. We're going to control how you travel. And it's for the public good, they said. This is for good. This is for the future
Now,
health
who's
threats.
telling us that? An organization that was exposed as having a politically motivated agenda during COVID.
Yeah.
That lied to the world about the efficacy of vaccines, that lied to the world and was co-conspirator in the lie of protecting China where,
That's
where,
right.
where
That's
COVID
right.
came from. And so you take the same corrupt organization that is really a political organization operating under the guise of being a global public health organization, something that is politically driven, not scientifically or clinically driven,
Yeah.
that has been exposed as being that corrupt, in which China has a powerful grip, and you give them more power.
And the EU goes right along with it. The experts, the
course.
nation leaders, first building block of a global digital health certification, which leads me to believe they're not done. This is only Europe. Europe is the first one.
Look,
So-
when you had people like Fauci, and when you had the politicization of the CDC in Atlanta, Center for Disease Control, and of the National Institute of Health, when you have the politicization of all of these government agencies in the United States, it is not going to be far on back of Europe.
Mm.
Not only that, there's another thing. It is not a treaty, it is an accord.
Yes.
If you make it a treaty, it requires senatorial approval.
Yeah.
They will play an Obama. They will do what Obama did with the Iranian Accords
Yeah.
and seek to circumvent
Or the
congressional
Paris Accord.
approval, right? And the Paris Accords, they'll seek to circumvent constitutionally mandated congressional approval by
Yeah.
making it an accord instead of a treaty.
Yeah, you're talking about the World Health Organization treaty that they wanted to pass. They did change the name to an accord, and they said why. It was at the behest of the United States. They needed to change the name in order to be more palatable.
That's right, to circumvent the Constitution. Again,
Evil.
there's never been a bigger enemy of the United States Constitution than Barack Obama and his geriatric appendage, Joe Obama or Biden.
Hey, Jacob, do you believe it could happen that he could run as a VP for next term with Biden? I think it's unconstitutional, but do you think they could try to do it, fly it up there and see if it sticks?
No, I don't think it would be too problematically, legally and politically in the near term for that to happen. But it doesn't matter who it is, they're gonna have the same agenda.
Well, might as well, it doesn't matter if he's behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, he's running the thing.
Yeah,
This is-
everybody knows that that Biden is not running anything. He's too senile and too dysfunctional.
So this is the classic case of the sleight of hand. They create the problem, find a solution, create the solution, and then seeing yourself as a savior, which is what the World Health Organization is touting
And
themselves.
they will do it with the blessings of Mark Zuckerberg, Silicon Valley, and the mainstream media.
Yes, exactly. So this is a big power grab. In fact, just reading up the World Economic Forum, just reiterations of what they did at the conference or their accord, their meeting for the accord, that everybody will be assigned a QR code. They want to give everybody a QR code for the global digital health certification network. They call it a system. It's a system, and it's repeated several times in their paperwork that this is a system to facilitate free movement, and it's a network of things that is international. It's global, it's international. I guess we have a little bit of a digital thing here in the States. 12 of the United States, so 12 states out of the United States have passed digital IDs already. Digital IDs, meaning that it's not replacing your current ID, but you can upload it and carry a digital ID on your phone. Thanks to Apple, makes it very easy. And Georgia is the latest one. Georgia's supposed to be a conservative state, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did something happen to Brian Kemp here, or something happened to Kemp? Well, yes, something did happen. He was at the WF meeting early in January, along with Kushner, along with other luminaries, you would say, of their day. And they are going to bring along.
People don't know Kemp is a rhino. He is a Republican who pretends to be a conservative at election time, but there's nothing conservative about him. He's like Mitch McConnell, Romney, Bush, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. So there's a system. Anybody want to comment on it? And the system, they keep calling it a system. It's not a solution. It's a system and of new IDs, new personalities. It's going to be you on the internet. It's going to be you digitally. Of course, tying in with what we talked about at the beginning. It's a digital network, and it will be built. It'll be built at the behest of all these global organizations. So anybody have any thoughts on this? The US, although it doesn't have the health one, it's already getting into digital IDs.
Well, anyone who thinks it's a great idea just needs to go and have a look at some of the videos coming out of China. The digital ID,
Oh,
getting
that's-
around from
yeah.
place to place. I've seen videos of you can't get the money out of the bank because it's all face ID. You actually, so they're wheeling their sick parents to the machine so they can get the money out for them.
It's
I
crazy.
even saw one video where they've got a coffin bringing up so they can, because it's, yeah, all face ID. Anyone who thinks it's a good idea needs to look at.
It's an evil
Marco?
system, no doubt. It's an evil system coming out of Europe.
Marco,
Gotta stick to
one good thing about an accord, even though it's not constitutional, if a righteous leader or a right leader was elected, they can opt out of the accord without having to go through Congress.
Yeah, that's
So,
what happened with the
this-
Paris Accord. Trump got in
Yeah.
and he was out of that.
so that's the only good thing. They can get around it, maybe get a lot in, and like they can give these digital IDs and they can keep people out of Europe. They can keep people out of whatever thing for tourism and everything. But if America says, hey, we're not into this and turns it around, a lot of money will quit flowing to those countries.
David, what do you think the likelihood of that happening?
Well, it just depends on if America wakes up enough to pick somebody that is good, that's going to and leaders on the. Look, we know we have a lot of local leaders are trying to get into the school systems and the school board, and it seems like that the Hispanics and others, those that were libertarians, have started leaning more towards the right now. We seems like it's gone too far. We even seen today where an extremely liberal actress came out and is rejecting Biden and the Democrats. I'm no longer a Democrat, I'm a libertarian. So we're seeing this starting to happen. If there's enough momentum, maybe we can put the skids on this for another respite for a few years.
David, do you see this as a forerunner to what eventually Revelation 13 talks about?
Eventually, of course, all of it goes there. I mean, God's word will come true, but we do know with birth pangs and with earthquakes, there's a respite, but
Yeah.
then they come back and get worse. So
Yeah, but I'm saying this global digital health
Oh.
certificate. Yeah, do you think it's a forerunner?
oh yeah, all these
Yeah.
are set up to do this. You had that trouble. I had the trouble having to get into the Philippines and then to Singapore. You have all these hoops to jump
Oh,
through.
man.
If you don't have that vaccine passport. Well, I could do it now, but they're going to make it so you can't go there and
Yeah.
everything. But what happens is you have a place like Thailand. Thailand got rid of it as soon as they could because of tourism. Their economy runs on tourism. A lot of the Indonesia, a lot of places run on tourism and tourism dollars. So there'll be great suffering if these companies, these countries grab this and tourism around the world stops or slows down dramatically. We saw, even though AOC said we want to stop the planes and all this stuff, people called her an idiot, but she was just spouting the company line.
Yeah. So European Union is on board with this. We know Biden administration is on board with it. Canada is on board with it. So it's going to be a very difficult thing to overturn unless God intervenes in such a way that he stops it.
And individual companies will buy into this without the government.
Yeah.
Over in London just yesterday, Aldi, who I think is a Dutch company, I'm not sure.
German.
German company has bought into it, and a person, an American, tried to go into the store to buy some food while he was there, and he couldn't get by the door because he wouldn't let him in because he didn't have that QR code.
Yeah, QR code. I just wonder why a lot of Christian leaders don't talk about these forerunners of Revelation 13. They don't want to talk about it. I guess they're too busy watching
Apathy.
The Chosen. I guess they're too busy watching The Chosen, and I guess that's really why. I understand it now. You got to go to these series, and it doesn't matter what's going on in the world or in Europe or vaccine certificates and things that are going to limit your movement. You can't go there. You can't go buy, sell, trade, whatever. Because they're too busy watching The Chosen. So I want to turn it over to you guys because we want to talk a little bit about The Chosen, then we jump into backstage. What is it? People don't know. I guess people don't. Many people have watched it, put it that way. Probably, but there are some people that don't even know what that is. What The Chosen is. Should believers be watching it? Is it an accurate portrayal of Jesus? These are all questions that people want. If it's an adaptation, what harm can it do? So I'll turn it over to Jay. You got some stuff there, Jay. David can talk about it. You guys can talk about it for sure. And why we would warn about watching The Chosen. Go ahead.
All right. So I have a short video that I'm going to share. It's all to do with The Chosen. So just give me a second. Bring that up. So I'm going to preface this first scene that we're going to watch with the fact that we have Nicodemus coming in, and he's going to meet Mary Magdalene. And before we get to it, I don't recall reading this in any of the Gospels, but we'll play it right now.
I adjure you, by the holy angels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, and Raziel, I adjure you, cursed dragon, and diabolical legions, come out! I adjure you, spawn of Beelzebub, Abaddon, and Sheol, by the utterance of all the watchers and the holy ones, in the name of Adonai, God of the heavens, cease to deceive this human creature. I command you, in covenant with Abraham, in the names of Jacob, Isaac, Moses, the all-powerful El Shaddai, fly from this innocent soul.
So for me, I agree with what Paul said. He said, never go beyond what is written. And to me, that scene, I'm glad that God made an appearance in the casting out of a demon. It was the angels, it was the patriarchs, all of them were called to help this woman. But it seemed to me that the last one that Nicodemus, according to The Chosen, of course, because I don't recall this anywhere in Scripture. Nicodemus called upon everything except for God until the very end.
That's right.
So again, we can't go beyond what's written because this is complete speculation. But I can understand why The Chosen chose to do it. It adds drama. And I can describe The Chosen pretty accurately, I think, by saying that it's trying to combine the idea of the gospel accounts by jamming it in with an episode of Friends from the 1990s.
There we go.
So to me, that's what it does. But, you can maybe speak to this a little bit better than I can, Jacob or Marco. I mean, the exorcism that he's doing, it makes no sense. As Christians, we're supposed to, call upon God to deliver people from demons.
Yes. Well, as you say correctly, James, he's calling on angelic powers and on the patriarchs. That has no scriptural basis, but it's completely out of character with Jewish history with what he prayed. He said Jacob, Isaac, and Moses. No, any Jew would have prayed Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So it's not true to the Sitzumleben, to the cultural or historical setting of what Judaism would have been at that time. Secondly, as you point out, it exceeds what is written. There have been some good films, like the Jesus film, that have been effective evangelistically.
Yeah, that's right.
This is more in character with Mel Gibson's piece of garbage. It's self-issued poetic license. And what it does is points people to this Hollywood fabrication that combines historicity with invention away from what the New Testament and the gospel narratives plainly say. That's what it's designed to do, to get people to watch this instead of look at the Word of God.
And it's very popular. I mean,
Oh, it's extremely popular.
yeah. What are the season? Are they in season 3 now?
Season 4.
Oh, season 4 now.
Season 4. And I can tell you that in the Bible studies that I lead, a lot of them became interested in Christianity and studying the Bible through this.
Right.
Now that's a great place. I'm just gonna say this. It's a great place to start. I watched Ben-Hur. I watched the 10 Commandments when I was young, and they opened me up to seeking out God.
Yes.
So in that sense, I'm not going to completely disregard the Chosen as an evangelical tool, evangelistic tool, but you have to go further than just watching it. You can't base your Christianity on just the Chosen. This next clip is very interesting as well, because now we're going to see the character that they're painting Jesus as. So let me go ahead and start that.
Minimize incest?
Of course not.
What if the laws of Moses will be minimized?
All of this will be addressed. I'm not ready to get into the specifics.
You appear to be not ready to get into the specifics of a lot of things. For instance,
Stay on.
Okay, so again, we have John the Baptist, we have Jesus talking, and it's interesting the way that John is interacting with Jesus. To me, it's going against Scripture, because here we have in John 1:27, he says, "He is the one who comes after me, the straps of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie." Well, John in the Bible says he's not unworthy to, untie a sandal, but in The Chosen, John is fully ready to debate Jesus as, you're going too slow, or why are you so why aren't you preaching more sharply? It's casting not only John in a different character, but I think he's casting Jesus in a different character. I have another clip to go with. Here we go.
I am not afraid of him. He may not be as bad as his father, but he is still bad. I'm gonna march straight into his court, and I'm gonna tell him to his face. My followers will love it.
You do know how that's going to end, don't you?
I get arrested all the time. It's what radicals do.
Again, now we're going back to Jesus questioning John, and in Matthew 11:11, Jesus said, "Assuredly, I say to you, among those born of women, there has not risen one greater than John the Baptist, but he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he." So, to me,
all the time, is that what radicals do? Who wrote the script? Saul Alinsky?
rules for radicals. Yes, absolutely. Great point, Jacob. Great point. It's painting John again as a radical, as a person who enjoys going to prison, almost like an Antifa protester. It is kind of insidious in that way. And again, this is what Jesus had to say about John in the Scripture, which really doesn't match the Jesus that's being portrayed in The Chosen. Here's a final clip I have, which is in my opinion, it is the worst.
And I heard about that brood of vipers comment. That was classy. Do you know how the poets say vipers are born?
Yes, they hatch inside their mothers and eat their way out, killing their mothers in the process. I thought it was a pretty good line.
Yes, but no one wants to be accused of killing their Ima.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to make friends with religious leaders, and judging by that stunt you pulled on the Sabbath, neither are you.
So that's what I have for you guys. And that last one is the most troubling to me. Jesus himself eventually was going after the hypocritical religious factors. And the way that they are portraying Jesus is kind of this loving guy that would never say a bad word about anybody. You know, it's a politically correct Jesus. And I just don't buy it. It's not the Jesus that I have read in scripture. Any other thoughts on that after seeing that last clip about the brood of vipers?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Chosen. While I agree with you about new people looking at it and maybe getting interested, I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with people that are longtime Christians thinking this is good and this is innocent and things like that. You know, the creator of this is a man named Dallas Jenkins. And he said this in an interview. He said that God has spoken to him 3 or 4 times, and he claimed he felt God laying on his heart that in several years, the Chosen was going to be what people thought of when they pictured the disciples. And I felt that God was saying that this will be the definitive portrayal of my people. And this is what people are going to think around the world when they think of my people. And I'm not going to let you screw it up. So he's basically saying God is giving him a divine revelation, which is a pretty high standard. But in the end, he is either another or allowing another Jesus to be shown to the Mormons, to the world, and to Catholics. And this should concern Christians, because what Dallas has done is he's brought in a group of rabbi, a Catholic, and also an evangelical professor. And what these people have done is they have cobbled together another Jesus, one that doesn't offend Mormons or offend Catholics and can be accepted by non-discerning Christians. And we have to understand this. I mean, Jay picked out some very good things, but people like it because, see, this is an adaptation. This is not like translating the word of God. He's adapting it, and he inserts his own self, their own thoughts into this. And one of the things that Dallas says that's more concerning, he says, one of the most interesting things about this whole project has been my relationship with different denominational or faith traditions that I hadn't heard before. I've learned so much about the Latter-day Saints community than I thought I knew. That goes for the Catholic community. And so he says, it's a beautiful thing to see that we can agree on stories of Christ. You got Catholic, Jews, and Mormons and evangelical. We're all loving the same show, and this show is about Jesus. Maybe, just maybe, we love the same Jesus. No, the Mormons have another Jesus, the spirit brother of Lucifer, whose father came from a planet near the star Kolob and had sex with the Virgin Mary so nobody else would do it. And so what happens, and why it's so dangerous, Mr. Jenkins, what he's doing is he's allowing Mormons to stay in darkness. This is the same thing that Rabbi Zacharias did. He left Mormons in darkness. He does not draw a distinction between the Jesus of the Bible and the Jesus of Christianity. And it's the same thing between the insufficient Jesus of Roman Catholicism and the Jesus of Christianity that is sufficient to say. Mr. Jenkins is a very confused man. His theology is wrong. Very, very wrong. And what's worse is that this is drawing people to this show. And now Mr. Jenkins and his wife are involved in writing study guides. They're writing devotionals that go along with his portrayal of Christ and his followers. And churches and small groups are watching The Chosen and then using the accompanying study guides for the sake of their spiritual growth. He argues that The Chosen doesn't replace Scripture, but he does claim that God is the one behind it. He's wanting to use his motive, or what he's saying here is right. He wants them to bring closer to God, but that's the same reason that the LDS used to promote the Book of Mormon. The thing is that he's leaving people in darkness, and he's showing another Jesus and another Spirit and another Christ. And mature Christians should watch out for this. And they should, I would say, they should probably warn people, in my opinion.
I agree, David. This is, if I may, because I always, in these cases, I always think of 2 Timothy 4:3. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust they shall heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, which means that they don't read themselves no more. They listen to this one here. They listen to Mel Gibson, the Passion of the Christ. They listen to, or they watch The Prince of Egypt with their children, and quoting Jacob. What a place to get your theology from, you know. So it's basically just tactics from our enemy. It's for me. So obviously, when it's not sound doctrine, it cannot be right. And even when it's mixed doctrine, it cannot. I mean, that's what moral stands for, right? Yeah, it's just distraction, really. And I truly believe that the ones that are brought by the Spirit to God himself, unless the Spirit draws himself to the Father, nobody come to me. Doesn't Jesus say that? So yeah, it might even be possible for some, but then soon after they will understand, once they start reading the Bible, that it's not correct, you know, what they've seen, and hopefully they will understand that that they should not use it as any means for evangelize whatever.
See, that would be a maybe. Maybe they'll see a difference, because look, we know today in so many mainline churches, there's so much bad theology in the NAR, and the and even in some good churches where you actually have a good pastor, most of what's being taught is milk. There's no teaching and no discipleship. And so people are not growing. They're not discerning. So it would be easy to fall into the trap of another Jesus. One cobbled together to present a non-offending Jesus that is for this day to seduce this generation at a time when darkness is coming. But that's my take on it, Marco.
I appreciate it. We certainly have not recommended it, and there's certainly a great amount of warnings that we talked about it even from the beginning. But I think this is, you know, more and more we need to, of course, you know, respond to what we see as popular pop theology. This is popular pop theology, and it is dealing with Christ, and it is dealing with Scripture. So we have to be very careful. Plus, the one thing that was really interesting this past couple of weeks ago or last week, they were flying the LGBT flag on their set.
Yes,
and which alarmed a lot of people. But instead of apologizing, we don't even, you know, how it got there, whatever. They should have apologized. They doubled down. They promoted it. They defended the flag on the set. So, look, you know, Christians have boycotted Target, they boycotted Kohl's and other places like that. Should they boycott this movie, Jay? This series?
If you are a mature Christian and you are in any type of Bible study, you're going to see these things. I don't mind using The Chosen as a place, as an entry point. I don't see a problem with that. But you have to know Jesus from the Bible, not from a sitcom, what I would call a an adaptation sitcom of the Gospels.
So no boycott, just basically be careful.
I'd say be careful.
All right,
Yeah.
David, would you boycott this just because they're flying the pride
Well,
flag?
I would say if you're a mature Christian, yes, because look, I believe with the addition of the devotionals and the Bible studies, you have this coming into churches that are actually may have good theology, but they're being taught a different Jesus. And with the lack of discernment, it's just, I believe these devotionals and this is a gateway into another Jesus.
Okay, very good. Davey, any thoughts on that? I know you and I have talked about The Chosen.
Yeah, look, I'd avoid it. There's much better sort of things. And I was going to say with the devotionals, Bible study guides and that sort of thing, that's another big warning. We've seen that with so many other things, purpose driven, the shack, all those horrible things that we like to forget about. Look, Dallas is a nice guy, but he is off track. He is misled. He has publicly stated that he's never been about proclaiming the gospel. He's about making just films of faith, basically. Yeah, there's much better.
Yeah.
He's
Faith-
now
faith
got a
in that
new
broad
film
way.
out. Marco, he's got a new film out where he shows the devil appearing in the form of a man to another man, offering the man all sorts of riches and everything, and all of his problems will disappear, supposedly.
What's the name of the?
So,
What's the
and
name
it's
of it?
financed by the Mormon Church, and he has a Mormon director.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard. I don't know what. Do you know what it's called?
yeah, let me look over here at my
Okay,
notes.
no worry about it. No worry about it. I just want
Yeah,
to
I
make
got
sure.
it real quick here. It's just right here.
Yeah, Dallas Jenkins. So he's
It's called The Shift. The
the
Shift.
Yeah,
Don't watch it. It's
The
he's-
Shift Shack.
yeah.
Shift and the Shack. Yeah, I mean, as soon as they start making Bible studies and they become a theological, spiritual thing, it no longer is about entertainment. It's really about changing your thoughts and mind about Jesus
That's right.
Christ. There's a problem. There's a problem, a deeper problem than just having Christian entertainment. I've never been a big fan of Christian entertainment. I like movies. Certain ones are good, certain ones are not so good. But nonetheless, if you're gonna mess with Scripture, if you're gonna tamper with Scripture, then you need to really be very careful with that. And I think in some way or form, when you have things like that, there is an inaccurate view of Jesus.
Yes.
People get their theology from movies. There's a great harm, and this is why we have such very little knowledge of Scripture, because people don't get it from the Bible. They get it from adaptations or books, and even to a certain extent, if you just rely on commentaries, to that degree, that there's an issue with that as well.
Yeah, I agree, Marco, because if how would you? I'm just wondering. I'm listening to everybody, so I'm imagining I'm an adult Christian. I want to use it maybe as an evangelizing tool. But what I'm going to say, okay, let's open the doors. But remember, not everything is accurate, biblically seen. So no, I would definitely not recommend anything of it. Well, that's of course my personal view. I would never do that because once I'm watching it with people and I see something that is not biblically correct, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to tell them, well, this is not really correct. This is not really biblical. So what's the point in watching it then? In the first place? So that would be my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I would recommend? Why Is This Time Different by Jacob Prasch. That's what I would recommend. And I can't wait for that movie to come out. And we got some great people involved in it that are here on this call. So that's what I would want to recommend. I want to see, but nonetheless, it does give a opportunity to say, if there are that many people, I'm going to flip it on the other side. If there are that many people that will watch something like this, I wonder if there's a great need for a biblical portrayal of Jesus, to put it in a, I know the Jesus movie is fantastic, and I don't think it could be outdone, but something along the lines of the gospel that can bring the reality of Jesus in terms of what the last days are all about and what he said about these things. I wonder if there's a great need for that. Now, maybe extrapolating and talking about just off the, on top of my head, but I do believe that many people interested in Jesus. Hey, why not? Why not bring something that is biblically accurate? Maybe that's why they won't watch it. But anyway, let's close this up. David, one final thought. Make it quick.
Yeah.
We got to wrap it up.
I want to make a recommendation. There was I think, a 8 or 9 hour adaptation of the book of Luke, verse by verse. Done.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's out there somewhere. If you want to go through and see a well-made gospel teaching that stuck to the scriptures, it's called the book of Luke. And every verse is in the thing.
Yeah,
I think there's also a version from Acts.
They did
also,
a thing from Acts also.
Also verse by verse.
Yeah, there is one that did really well. It even came out on theaters. It was the Gospel of John.
The Gospel of John is
Gospel
excellent.
of John was done. Those guys did that. It was good.
Yeah,
But
I
don't
watched
know if
it.
They
Watched it
were
several times.
VHS. I don't know if they converted them over to DVD.
Oh yeah, it came out on theaters. It came out on DVD.
You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's
YouTube.
the full thing is there on YouTube if you wanted to watch something.
Show young Christians those.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Ditch the chosen.
Yes.
And-
Why is this
and,
time different? I'm gonna
you
go
know
with
that-
why is this time different, but anyway,
Yeah.
it's coming out. Anyway, let's
Uh,
wrap this up.
Okay.
Thank you guys for watching on Catching Up. We had a whole lot of things that we discussed today, but we still got one more. And so if you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, tune out of that, jump onto Rumble and Telegram and Vimeo and Memorial.tv and memorialtv.org and get to watch an expose that we're going to talk about the war on children. We're not going to take any questions today, so hopefully you guys heard that at the beginning, but we'll send a message to make sure that we'll take the questions for next week. So what's going on in the world and the war against children? It's a very important expose, pretty good stuff. Catches up on Backstage. So we're going to tune out right now and go into Backstage. We'll see you guys in a minute.
Hello, and thank you for watching Memorial TV. There are so many things that are happening at Memorial Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan to India to Africa and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.